Thank you, senators, for coming today. I know we've got a lot of committee meetings going on, a lot of activities, but we do have a quorum, so we will call the Senate and Insurance and Labor Committee Senator Kirkpatrick, do you mind opening us with a word of prayer?
Absolutely. I'm number 8. Please pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for another beautiful day in Georgia and for bringing us all here safely. Help us as we try to make it through these hectic days to remain calm and to keep the golden rule in mind about treating others the way we want to be treated, and help us get through these long days. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. Okay, we're here to hear a committee sub for Senate Bill 142, and that's brought to us by Senator Lee Anderson. Ms. Senator Anderson, do you want to use the podium or the tables? Fine.
Is that me? All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to say thank you and thank the committee for giving me this opportunity to bring this bill back up that we tabled yesterday. I know we're in the last minutes before we can get a bill out, and I just want to thank y'all for that. But as I said yesterday, we was flexible, and we had some movement that we could move on this bill and change, and we took the concerns of the senator from the 46 and the concerns of the chairman and others.
Excuse me, Senator. Yes, I want to be sure we follow the proper parliamentary procedure. The bill was tabled yesterday in committee,
right?
And you would like to present a sub, but we have to have a motion and a second and a vote to take it off the table.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we remove LC 520293S, or excuse me, 93 off the table.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of taking SB 142 off the table for reconsideration? All right, passed unanimously. I thought that would work, but I just wanted to do it right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now you're presenting a committee sub of SB 142 LC 520293S.
Correct.
All right. Sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you. We need to do it right. But we took concerns of senator from the 46 and concerns of yours on the bill, and we adjusted them to where I think everyone's satisfied with the bill now, and I'm gonna just stop there and see if there's any questions.
Mr. Chairman, do you mind to go through the changes that you made?
Okay, we'd be glad to. That's why I brought my attorney with me. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
And again, if you don't mind, for the record.
I'm Claudine Wilkins, Claudine Wilkins, Claudine Wilkins, PC. So if you go to page 2, we trimmed up some language on line 41 where it said pen or structure having secure sides. We took out some terms about the top of that secure pen. We took that out. Okay. We left the original law under line 30 through 32. That's the current law as it is, and we just removed the suggested changes that were in there yesterday. Going on page 3, one of the things we did here is, and this was in the original old bill back in 2012, is we define proper enclosure at the definitions section instead of having it repeated twice in the body of the law. We also included on line 46 through 49. These aren't changes. These are just things that we're adding onto the current law. Lines 46 through 49 was in the original law. Why it didn't get back in, we're not so sure. But this is just to talk about records that are being used when they're in board hearings discussing dangerous dog hearings. These are the type of records they can pull to find out if there's prior history. Nothing has changed since the last time in the serious injury. And in lines 55 through 59, we reduced the language there, and we stuck with the addition of causes physical injury by multiple attacks or multiple puncture wounds by the same dog and the same attack. And if you turn the page, throughout this bill, you'll always see that we've add the additions of sheriff and law enforcement, because we know that at least 27 of our states do not have animal control. So we want to make it crystal clear who has the right to impound a dog that is
27 counties.
27 counties. All right, so moving on to page 4. Nothing has changed here. We still have the $100 inspection fee. On page 5, nothing has changed between the lines 92 and actually nothing has changed here from the other substitute. On page 6, we have the same as we did on the previous bill that was heard yesterday. Page 7, nothing has changed here. Page 8, one of the things we contemplate in the law is when somebody says, keep my dog or I'm surrendering it, doesn't mean that the criminal prosecution shall go away either. Because, of course, we're trying to deter the behavior of the dog owner. Nothing else has changed on that page. And on the last page, on 9, we removed a provocation definition. It's no longer there. We took that out. We also added the word on line 207. We added the word or vicious because we had not put that in there. We just only included dangerous dog, but it meant to contemplate any activity that is found under those definitions. And one other thing, on the very second page again, I believe it was Senator Calcert brought this to my attention, or our attention, and that was the strike through. If you go to lines 27, 28, we removed the strike through on that and left it as is in the current law, which is provided that acts of barking, growling, or showing of teeth by a dog shall not be sufficient to classify a dog. So that's back in. And that's pretty much it.
Okay. Thank you. We've got a sign-up sheet out, and for anybody that wants to speak for or against this bill. Is this the sign-up sheet? So I know I have one that wants to speak. Well, we'll get it down here. Put that back out there. So, Mr. Bobby Potter, now's your chance. Yes, sir. Go to the podium if you would, please.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Bobby Potter, and in this capacity I represent State Farm Insurance Company, who insures a lot of houses in the state of Georgia, about 25%, and a lot of automobiles. In this world, I guess it would be dealing with the homeowners coverage. Yesterday, I spent some time with Claudine Wilkins. I was kind of the one drafted to sit down and go through changes that had been made based on the hearing yesterday after the table. Some of those changes she was kind enough to go through and where the strike-throughs were, then sent a draft. I sent a proposed change to her late yesterday afternoon that was acceptable at that point, and then a couple of hours later was not acceptable and is not in this draft. There's, as she went through it just a minute ago, I'm not sure why it's missing, on y'all's copy, page 7, section 5 dealt with an A, what is unlawful for an owner of a dangerous dog to permit the dog to be off the property, and there was a B about a vicious dog that's deleted. I'm not sure why. It really has nothing much to do with me, but it's not on there. The concern that I would express to you is kind of twofold. I think Senator Anderson, from his perspective, is trying to prevent horrible circumstances to occur. And that's what a lot of this bill is about. But the part that Ms. Wilkins and I talked about yesterday, and I thought we were on the same page, was the last section, which is section 9. I would refer to that as sometimes the GTLA section, and GTLA would say, hey, this is not our bill. And Dan Snipes would tell me this is not our bill, and it's not. But I didn't really realize it yesterday. But Ms. Wilkins is a trial lawyer, and she specializes in dog bite cases. So this is the part that is of concern to me, and that is, it was raised last year in a hearing about this, improving vicious propensity, and I'm on line 203, improving vicious propensity. Yesterday's version had an and at line 206, and that dog had to be required to be on a leash and off that leash and meet the definition of a dangerous dog. I had asked if you would just change dangerous, and she wanted to put in vicious, which she has done, if you would change that to classified dog, which is by definition in the beginning of the bill, or at least it was in late yesterday afternoon's version, and it's not in there right now. But classified dogs, as I understand it, she lives in this world, I don't, but that would mean that dog has been designated as a dangerous dog or a vicious dog by a governmental entity, a person who does that part of that job for a living, whether it's the sheriff or it's the animal control officer. In that case, vicious propensity is then designated and known by the owner. So if there is a horrific event, notwithstanding that that's been designated, then the victim retains the lawyer can prove vicious propensity simply because the dog has been classified. Now, the way that's changed from yesterday afternoon, it can prove vicious propensity simply by meeting a part of the definition of dangerous dog. Now, Senator Cowser was concerned about some of that stuff that was taken out of the definition yesterday. Some of that was put back in about simply barking and growling. But it's a lower bar for that from the standpoint of the lawsuits. And the concern from that perspective is, in the first version of this bill, it required $500,000 worth of coverage. And now it's $50,000 for if you have a dangerous dog, $100,000 if you have a vicious dog. Well, the catch is, and you could all ask yourselves, would you want to put any of your assets at risk for somebody that's not responsible enough to have a dog on a leash or have them run the neighborhood? You would not. And insurers will be in that circumstance, and they will not want to write coverage for that. So coverage will be less likely to be available. You would want to think at the end of the day there's a horrific injury, there's a terrible circumstance, medical bills need to be paid. Who pays that? Well, doggone it, there ought to be insurance. But the insurance is should be purchased by that owner of the dog that's not responsible enough to maintain the dog in a proper way in the first place. He or she generally is not going to be responsible enough to buy $50,000 or $100,000 worth of coverage. So that's the concern. This is a moving target. It moved a lot from yesterday to yesterday afternoon to this morning. So from our perspective, and I would say I don't speak on behalf of the entire insurance industry, and I told Ms. Wilkins that. I was just asked to look at this, and that's the observations I made, and there's some changes that are of significant concern for those reasons.
All right, does the committee have any questions for Mr. Potter?
Well, not Mr. Potter, no. I'll wait.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Potter, do the insurance groups you represent, do they offer any kind of insurance now for owners of pets?
This is, at least as I understand it, Senator, and
I'm just asking, do the people you represent now, today, offer any kind of liability insurance for pet owners?
The short answer to that is yes. They offer homeowners insurance
Okay.
to an awful lot of folks in the state of Georgia.
Right.
Now, there are exclusions with some of that coverage from time to time, and there are folks that would not write coverage if a homeowner has a certain kind of dog.
Well, if I own a certain kind of car, y'all might not write coverage too, right? I mean, some
Probably.
auto
There's
carriers.
some,
Right.
there'll be some vehicles where you'd have to get specific coverage. Yes, sir.
That's right. But is there any kind of coverage that you're aware of now? If I take my dog down to, if I had one, if I took my imaginary dog down to the dog park there in Columbus and Fetch, and my dog, I knew, or I don't know, but my dog goes over there and just tears up a little kid like we saw yesterday. My homeowners doesn't extend out there, does it? Or could it?
It certainly
Yeah.
could, and you would almost assuredly be sued for it.
Absolutely. And so
you would.
Are we looking at something here that there are already remedies for? Because dogs at times react the way that no owner would ever anticipate, because dogs are animals very different than us.
Dogs are definitely animals very differently than us, and your Fluffy, your imaginary Fluffy, in your household would not be perceived to be dangerous at all. In the law right now, it's required to be on a leash, when off that leash could be dangerous.
Okay, I was just curious. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Potter? 10?
Yeah, 9. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, so I'm getting confused myself on some versions I saw yesterday. It sounds like it was a work in progress after, when I reviewed this after session.
Yes, sir.
The current law, part of the sort of basis of liability is that the owner of the animal has to know that it's dangerous or is prone to cause harm to people. Is that right or wrong? Is that why the classified dog is important? So there the owner would be aware that their dog was vicious or dangerous or a threat to other people?
Yes, sir. I think that will be a part of that, and certainly another part of it is the other pieces of what you have to do if you have a classified dog in order for these horrific events not to occur in the first place. The enclosed pen and that kind of thing. That's part of the requirement of this bill and the law. But certainly knowledge by the owner is part of it. Yes, sir.
So is this bill shifting it more to a strict liability type situation for a dog owner? Their dog could be defined as dangerous without them even knowing it, having received the notice before a dog gets classified?
Yes. Yes, sir. In my opinion, having read the morning version, I think that's what that does.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak for or against the bill? All right, Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm John Barber, representing the independent insurance agents, and not prepared to offer a for or against the bill. Just got the language like many of you this morning. We just wanted to mention a few items of consideration. So new language in the bill in lines 50 through 59 in the definition of serious injury. So we're adding new language that is multiple puncture wounds and multiple attacks. Multiple is not a defined term. Multiple, in my opinion, could be 2. Multiple puncture wounds. Most dogs have 2 canine teeth, and any sort of bite's going to leave multiple puncture wounds. So this is opening up for a greater amount of speculation of what is a dangerous dog. And just keep in mind that the definition in the law is serious injury. And back, let's see, that is line 26 of the bill. We actually strike through the word serious and insert physical.
What line was that?
Line 26. So serious injury is a defined term in the bill, but we strike through serious and insert physical. So I think there may be a conflict there that the committee should consider as well. So in addition, I want to echo Mr. Potter's comments around that is section 9, the tail end of the bill. And those are my comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Any questions for Mr. Barber? All right. We have another Stacy.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Stacy Freeman. I represent the American Property Casualty Insurance Association, and I will be brief. I am a dog owner. I have children. My wife and dog have been in a situation, fortunately not as serious as some of these have been described, and one of our neighbors has a classified dog in a fence, so I have some familiarity with this. I would just echo Mr. Potter's comments and the concerns that Senator Calzett raised about appearing to be strict liability in the last section of the bill. Appreciate your time. Any questions?
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, it's getting late. I have a question for Ledge Council. Sarah, did we take the definition of classified out of the code, or is it somewhere else in the code?
It's still classified as classified.
Okay, because we refer to classified in this bill. I just wanted to be sure that we hadn't taken the definition out. That's all I had. Senator Harbin.
I wanted to, if you will, refer to page 5, looking at lines 100, starting 100. The owner provides proof of sterilization of the dog. Understand how that can be done. Number 6, the owner maintains and provides proof of general or specific liability insurance in amount of at least $50,000. I have a question is that being in the insurance business, and I want you to hear me, is that if I have a dog that's already been classified as either vicious or having a propensity, I will tell you that most of my insurance carriers will not insure that dog. The second part that I see here, and when I saw those pictures yesterday, I won't tell you what I would, my first thoughts of that. You have an owner problem, but you also have a dog problem that's there. But it's how do you monitor, even if he can get coverage, and that's a real question. If he could get coverage, if that dog has already bitten someone, I'll promise you that we already have $1 billion a year in dog bite claims across the nation. But my question is, number one, how do we monitor that? How do we know coverage is in place? If they can get it in place, that would be the question that I have from that standpoint. Because it's an issue that I have an issue that I know I got a problem with, and I have, it's like calling an insurance company with a house on fire. It's just not that's not gonna come together. But how is this going to be handled? Who's responsible for the monitoring and keeping up with that? For instance, if I have a mortgage on a house, that bank monitors that. This is an area that I'm trying to see how do we monitor this once it's done? if we can get coverage. And then my last question, and I know I'm asking multiple questions, so bear with me, is if they can't get it, what happens? What is the remedy for this dog that I can't get insured? Where does this dog go? What do I do with this dog? That's the question I have from that standpoint that I don't see in this bill, and maybe I'm missing something. Could you help me on that, please?
This was actually contemplated back in 2012 with Dr. Maddox's bill, and there are states that go through quite a lot of detail on whether the county will be listed as additional insured to have notices. Just like we have, 20 years ago, we didn't have a system where if you didn't have insurance on your car, we wouldn't know it unless the DVM told us. And when I used to prosecute many years ago, half of my courtroom was people with no insurance. They'd have it for the day of court, and then they'd cancel it on the way out the door. We can put that in the statute on how that is maintained and how it's handled administratively, so to speak. But we didn't do it here for basically to keep the bill as small as we could, but it can be done. It's being done in other states. And then your second question was, help me out.
Second question is, if the owner cannot get insurance,
oh, right.
What do I do with the dog? What is my responsibilities to do with the dog?
It is contemplated in here, and basically if somebody cannot be in compliance within a certain period of time, then the dog is to be basically turned over to the state. And the state is not to, when I say the state, I mean if it can't be controlled by that owner and they cannot have the compliance, which is insurance, then the animal cannot be adopted out to a third party because of the known history. There's got to be some sort of way that if they can't, have the fence, have the microchip, have these things in place, then it becomes a public safety issue. So if you look online, let me find it. Look on line 171 through 177 on page 8. In the event the owner has not complied with the provisions of this article within 10 days of the date of the confiscation, this is after they've been declared, okay, and they've met their requirements. And then if they haven't come into compliance, it shall not be transferred, sold, or adopted, and shall be euthanized in a humane manner.
Who's responsible for that, if you don't mind? Is that the county, the city, the municipality?
It would be the local jurisdiction.
Local jurisdiction,
right,
as far as that board.
Any other questions? We're tight on time.
Can I make one clarification, Senator Harbin? If you go back to it's on page 7, section 6. Now this is after the dog's been classified, okay? A dangerous or vicious dog shall be immediately confiscated by a dog control officer or law enforcement officer in the case of a violation of this article. And that's where they have to, after that, that's where they have 10 days to come back into compliance. And if they fail to, then the state can euthanize or that local jurisdiction can euthanize the animal.
All right.
Back to page 2 on the issue of serious and physical.
Right.
Was that a change from the bill we looked at yesterday? Because we don't have the original.
It was the same, and the reason it's here is a serious injury will bump it up to a vicious animal. Okay. On a dangerous dog, it should contemplate any injury, which could be just a simple puncture wound. That's why the word serious was struck here, because this is under the dangerous dog provisions. So to address the multiple puncture wounds, this is a repeated attack, like what happened in the gentleman in the woods recently. A little girl named Logan was jogging in Newton County. She was bitten 7 times, 7 puncture wounds. But if you look at the way the law is written, a puncture wound will only stay as a dangerous dog. But this was certainly a vicious attack. And she didn't need any stitches because they don't stitch up puncture wounds for those reasons, for infection. So we're trying to contemplate when a dog repeatedly attacks in the same attack, that is a vicious attack. little girl was on a public street. The two dogs attacked her. If not for the neighbor coming over with a gun, we might not have had her here anymore. It was a very vicious attack. But based on the current law, that would only make it a dangerous dog because they were only puncture wounds, but there were 7. So that's why we're trying to contemplate it here. Now, you could strike.
Yes, ma'am. We're going to move on. Thank you. Sorry about that. Seems like a lot of questions still, Chairman.
Sure.
Do you want us to vote on this? Would you rather, this is a 2-year process. We can, I'll just open it up. What's the will of the committee in respect?
If we need to table it, let's just table it.
That's my motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I got a motion and a second.
Motion table.
Motion to table, second. That's what we got it before us. All those in favor of tabling the bill, please signify by raising your hand. All right.
Could I make one comment?
Thank you, Chairman.
As this is your.
If it's very, very brief.
Very, very brief. Here's the issue here. There needs to be a monetary punishment for the owner. You're putting this off on an insurance company, but the owner needs to be responsible with fines or even imprisonment if he knows that, if he has a known risk. But to just throw this off to the insurance company, that's not the way this needs to be handled. There needs to be skin in the game, and that's not a pun, as far as the owner itself. In my opinion, with some type of fine, that would help me digest better. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. And thank committee members for coming again, and appreciate it, Ms. Wilkinson. We stand adjourned.